The FDA made a major move yesterday, banning red dye number 3, an additive used in certain kinds of food to color it.
The dye can be found in various candies, baked goods, sodas and more. Advocacy groups had written a petition in November 2022 calling for the dye to be banned, citing links to cancer.
President-elect Trump's Health and Human Services pick, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has criticized food dyes and other chemicals found in foods and drinks and has vowed to crack down on them if he becomes HHS secretary. Activist and filmmaker Robby wrote on X, "To be extremely clear, the FDA is banning only red number 3, but has not taken action on red number 40. It's my hope RFK and the MAHA crew can get red 40, I keep reading red as ready, red 40 and other harmful dyes out of the food that American kids eat every day." Writer and internet personality Lauren Lee wrote, "After decades of silence, cries from the MAHA movement finally pushed this poison off of our shelves. Are we witnessing the RFK Jr. effect?"
Speaking of RFK Jr., the Daily Beast reported yesterday that Kennedy has made over $2 million from his non-profit, Children's Health Defence, which is very critical, to put it mildly, of certain vaccines and the CDC's childhood schedule of vaccinations. Here's Kennedy on Tucker Carlson's Fox show back in 2017 discussing vaccines.
I don't know what to think of that. I have many children. I had them all vaccinated. I'm not against vaccines. But I am for asking sincere questions, and I suspect...
Exactly.
I'm deeply suspicious of people who shout down those questions on the basis of the fact they're unfashionable. So I still don't understand why all of a sudden you're not allowed to ask sincere questions. I don't think you're getting paid for this, are you?
No, I'm not. In fact, I'm getting unpaid for this. It's been probably the worst career move that I've ever made.
Kennedy said the current issue over his financial disclosures was an inadvertent error because he confused gross wages with net pay. That's according to that story in the Daily Beast. The Trump transition team admitted to the Beast that Kennedy's personal financial disclosures were incorrectly reported.
So red dye number 3 has really taken a beating in the media.
I hope you're not going to ask me my expertise on red dye number 3, which is limited, but go ahead.
Mine as well. But this is something RFK Jr. has been railing against. And I think what I would say is, you know, there's a lot of Democratic contention, not universal, that RFK Jr. is just universally a crank or crazy. This is one of his big ideas. It's being implemented by the Biden administration prior to him taking over. So you can't say that, while I do think he is outside the norm, and I do not agree with some of what he has to say about the vaccine, a lot of what he has to say about the vaccines himself. I agree with him on mandating them and censorship around questions about them. His views on health advocacy or making food products safer from like a consumer welfare standpoint is standard issue Democratic Party stuff, has been for years, and I think some of that has been forgotten. Now, for myself, because I am not a standard issue Democratic Party person, I actually have a lot of questions about whether on the basis of some activist group saying there are links to cancer, we discussed this earlier, everything has links to cancer if you squint at it. The human condition is to eventually die of something.
You're not taking the pro-cancer position here. Robby Soave doesn't care about cancer.
Well, I'm not for the inevitable decline of the human body, but it takes place. Is this actually scientifically demonstrated enough that that the government should forbid a food company from putting this in their food? Again, you don't have to eat the food. You can read what's on it and decide you don't want this stuff. And
we were talking about Costco earlier. When you're making your rounds at Costco, how many times do you read the food packaging to determine what?
Well, I'm not making any of my rounds at Costco because of all that suffocating wokeness. I can't even breathe.
Well, when you're preparing your meals for the week, do you read every food label closely?
I do not, but I look at the labels on food, and I cook a lot of my own food. I am pretty health conscious. I've become a lot more health conscious, I would say, in the last year. I don't, I eat out if I'm going out with friends or something, but I never, if I'm just in my apartment, I never order food for myself, ever. I know everybody does this. Everybody DoorDashes everything. I never do that. I have plain chicken that I brought from the grocery store, plain pork, taco meat, a steak, and I cook those things for myself. There's no red dye making its way in there because it's just
they're not
raw
afflicted.
meat, getting spices, going in the oven.
They're not afflicted by any additives. Well,
No.
unless they're the additives, unless they're
Well, there might be
introduced to
additives in
the-
it. There are some additives
Right.
in the not red dye, but
Right, exactly.
So I'm reading. Well, go ahead. Why don't
Well,
you
well,
share
what
you have
I
to
mean,
say, and
so
I got more after
on
that.
the point of additives generally and chemicals being added in food, I, like many people, am skeptical of that, and I think that it is notable that the United States does allow lots of substances to be used in the food production process generally that the European Union, for example, does not do, and I think that that is something to be concerned about. That is one of the rare occasions where I agree with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who I am, I think, much more skeptical than you are in general, because I don't like his extreme skepticism about vaccines. There was the famous instance where a story had to be retracted from Salon and Rolling Stone years ago because it wasn't supportable. There was another controversy that I've spoken about before in American Samoa where he got involved with promoting or associating with anti-vax activists, and basically subsequently a number of people died from an outbreak of measles, if I'm remembering correctly. Certainly an outbreak of some preventable disease. So I don't like his overall stance because I think some of the more reasonable parts of it are kind of a Trojan horse for a dangerous agenda. But I'm, as I said when we were bantering at the start, I'm not an expert by any stretch of red dye number 3, so I don't know.
I have just been looking through. Maybe we can try to get him on the show next week. He's been on the past. Vinay Prasad, who is a doctor with some heterodox views on mandating vaccination. Certainly, I was just actually reading his Substack on his thoughts on this, and he was actually. So I've seen a lot of people saying, "Well, isn't it insane that there are the standards for whether you can put red dye in medicine were stricter than whether you could put them in food?" And he's saying that's actually not that crazy if you think about it, because if it's going in, the drug is the government is saying when it allows the drug that this is good for you, you should take this. It's going to get a variety of government has to do with our health care coverage and all of that. It's covered, so it's subsidized. So there's a high standard for proving that this is safe and should be in a medical product. In a food product, well, I mean, again, that's your choice whether you buy it off the shelf or not. So the threshold there actually should be lower. And I'm just reading his Substack. It's hilarious. He's saying it's similar to so he thinks the evidence has not been. I think if I'm kind of processing this as we're talking about it. He's saying he doesn't think the evidence there is so necessarily overwhelming at this point, and that he too much. There's health experts come in, say something is bad and ought to be banned, and then so instead of that product, we use a different product, and then they come in and say, wait, actually that product is worse for you than that product. We should all switch back. It's like, well, the problem is we never should have made the switch in the first place, and a little bit of that is going on. He says that's very true of the seed oil debate, which all sorts of people have been having. He writes that we used to make fries in tallow. They tasted good. Then some moron said vegetable oil is healthier. That's a lie. No evidence supports that. We never should have switched, but now the same moron is saying we should switch back. You know what I mean? It's like new people come in and say, this is. I remember when I was a kid in the 90s, remember the food pyramid? Do you remember that thing?
Yeah.
The government saying, why are you not eating bread right now?
Right.
Stuff more bread in your face or you'll probably die. It was like you could not possibly have enough bread a day. And then we had the whole low carb thing came on, which as far as I can tell, it makes a lot more sense than the stuff your face with bread at every opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think, just eating natural foods when you can is generally a good thing. Although I don't normally eat fries, and I had delicious fries last night. I don't know what kind of fat they were.
Where did you have delicious fries?
I had them from a burger place close to my house here in DC's, Z Burger. But anyway, yeah.
Well, you're all welcome at Chef Robby's house, where we're eating very
healthy food.
Healthy chicken, pork, etc. Next up on Rising, we'll discuss Bill Burr's comments on the California fires that are causing such a stir on X.